background and facilitating and taking notes of the discussion today. So we have Priyanka with us. She will be leading on the facilitation and note-taking part. We have Judy and Jinyi also, who will be available also for translation throughout the meeting if requested or needed. We do want to get started by welcoming and kind of introducing what has happened so far and a bit of the process. And I think before I do that, I also wanted to invite, we have some elected officials on the call that wanted to say a few words and invite them to speak up to the community and maybe take the word. And I'm aware that Council Member Chen, maybe I invite you first to just address the town hall.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to really thank DCAS and 3x3 for organizing this important community engagement town hall. I just think back, this year early on, right before Lunar New Year, when we heard about the terrible fire at 70 Mulberry Street. I think all of us was devastated. This building hosts so much history and memories for a lot of us. I went to school when I first got to this country in that building. And in that building, we have so many nonprofit organizations. The largest senior center in Chinatown is right on the first floor. We have, programs for our youth, the job training program from CMP, the History Museum was there, and also just so many arts and cultural performances. And it was just so devastating to see the loss. But we were able to convince our mayor that it was so important to rebuild, that this is such a treasure for our community. And even in this difficult budget process, he allocated $80 million in capital dollars to help us rebuild, restructure this building so that we can continue to meet the needs of our community. There's so many organizations besides the one that was there already. Arts group that I work with, other nonprofit organizations that provide vital services. A lot of them need community space. And hopefully in this process, we will provide more affordable, accessible space for other community and cultural groups so they can continue their long historic service for our community. And I just thank everyone for participating, and for individual who couldn't join the town hall, we encourage you to fill out the survey, and we're also working with CCBA to provide the paper survey, and we just want everyone to take this opportunity to give your input. How can we utilize this once in a lifetime opportunity to really create something that's going to be tremendous and great for our community? And I thank you all again for organizing this and participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Chen. Do we have Senator Kavanagh on the line already?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Great, thank you very much. I'll be brief. My colleague, Councilmember Chen, said it so well, but this building really has obviously been such a profound part of this community for so long. I was there the evening of the fire, and was there to witness the efforts of our brave firefighters to save the building, but also you could see the devastation right from the beginning. So we've been working together to ensure that this community process be as robust as possible. We thank the city and 3x3, and I thank all my colleagues in the community board and all my elected colleagues who have participated in this, and all the members of the community and all of the leaders who have brought their ideas forth. Without I don't have much else to add other than just to say that I continue to be committed to make sure that this process is inclusive, that it is a robust conversation, and that capital money that Councilmember Chen mentioned is well spent on a building that reflects the values and the aspirations of the community and allows the great work of the tenants that were in this building to continue in a new space that results from this process. So I'll leave it there, but thank you everybody who's listening this evening.
Thank you very much. I also noted Assembly Member Yulin Nu is on the line now and would like to address the floor. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for having me. I don't want to take up too much time because I think that the community voices are the most important, obviously. I just wanted to say that, you know, the focus needs to be on community engagement and community participation in all of the aspects of planning. So I really appreciate having this town hall that 3x3 is helping to arrange. And also, you know, I think that gatherings and meetings like this are really essential to ensuring that the future of 70 Mulberry is actually in the hands of our community and caters to those needs and our needs and interests especially. So, you know, we know that the priorities are pretty clear for our community. We need to make sure that tenants and community, you know, are well served. We need for transparency every step of the way. I think that that's very, very clear that we need that. And also, we want to have community engagement that's actually real and to have the implementation of the engagement, because we have seen in the past that, you know, we've been given town halls and it's actually just another checkbox for the city to do whatever else they want. And I think that, you know, it's been too easy for the city to break promises to my community in the past, especially, and we need to make sure that it keeps its promises to the community that were made the night of the fire and the morning after. And so I want to thank all of the folks who came out today. I want folks to listen to my community members, and I want to hear what we come up with as the answer here. And I think that, you know, when we see that, you know, promise after promise has been broken, it's really hard to gain back the trust of our community. For them to believe in our city government. So, you know, this is going to be a hard discussion, and also one that I think my community will need much more time than today to be able to engage in. But I also wanted to say thank you to all of the folks who spend so much time listening, and all of the electeds who can come time and time again to have these meetings, but also all of the community members who come every single time to make sure that there is their input as well. It is so important for our community, as you can tell, because we have so many people already on this call, that, you know, that this is a hub for us. This is a heart for Chinatown, and it's also a heart for New York, because of all of the events and all of the things that it brings to us. So I wanted to say again, thank you to the folks holding the town hall, but also, you know, thank you to folks who are coming here to listen, and also thank you to the folks who are coming to speak. So again, you know, we're waiting for our promises to be kept, the promises that the city has made to us, and we'll continue to fight for that. And that starts, you know, we start to see, I guess, when that takes place. And I've seen the city float around all different kinds of plans that were not part of the discussion, and it has raised large concern for me. So I'm here to listen and learn. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that, is there any other elected official on the call that would like to say a few words before we move on? But
I'm Gail Brewer, Manhattan Borough President. And I just want to say a couple of things. I listened to the recent discussion with the facilitator, and it was phenomenal in the different workshops. So I want to congratulate the facilitator. The workshop that I was in was very listening and patient and good information, number one. Number two, you know, I'm usually pessimistic, glasses half full. That's usually how I am, and I have to deal with issues, real estate issues from top of Manhattan to the bottom, and they're always challenging. But I have a good feeling about this because there has been a lot of participation, because I believe the mayor will, he doesn't always, but I believe he will fulfill his promise. And if more money is needed, we'll find it, because it's so important. Whether it's the image of the school that so many people went to, or, to be honest with you, some of the highest quality nonprofits known to humankind are in that building, bar none. Whether it's social services, dance, thank God for the records of the museum, etc. So it's really an excellent group. Nobody can say anything but that. And then finally, I know that the businesses are concerned because you have to have a building is operational to make sure that there are customers for the businesses, the streets are open, etc. So there's a lot at stake. And of course, preservation versus getting it done faster. If I had my way, it'll all happen, and hopefully quickly. So I'm just here to say congratulations to the process thus far. And I have lots of horrible real estate issues to deal with. I don't think this is one of them. I think this is one that we can really come to some very quick decision that is what the community wants. So congratulations, and I too look forward to the participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for also the kind words. Thinking that, I'm going to move us into kind of the introduction part for today. And we are having this part because we are not assuming that maybe everyone joined the first group of meetings. So it might sound familiar to those who have joined us during the first round, but just bear with us for a few minutes as we're bringing everyone on the same page, and we're going to share a few findings that we have learned from the first round of community meetings. So this process, the community visioning process, was part of the commitment of the city to rebuild 70 Mulberry Street, and it was about gathering public input and exploring options for the future of the site. And most importantly, identifying the alignment across different stakeholder groups about the rebuilding process. And with that, there's the importance of it by its name. It's a community visioning process. So through participation, we as like the facilitators of this process really aim to determine and align on the different needs and desires of the 70 Mulberry Street community, as well as affected stakeholders. As some of you have just pointed out, there's a lot of different stakeholders impacted and involved by this process, in order to inform criteria for programming design and the future role of the rebuilding of the building moving forward. Also a little bit of background on 70 Mulberry Street, maybe for someone who's not as familiar as probably most of you are. There are 5 tenants that have been offering services and programs at the building. There's the Chen Dance Center that you can see all the way on the left on your screen. And you have below, on the second image, the Museum of Chinese in America. You have United East, and you have CPC and CMP. And these services and tenants have been in the building offering the services and programs, and are also promised to return to the building after this process. And then one of the reasons why we all here, as we know, there was a fire in January 2020, and the 5-story brick building was severely damaged and destroying the top 3 floors and displacing its 5 tenants that you have just seen on the previous screen. And then, as you also know, the reason why we're here, there was actually a commitment by the mayor, and there was a funding announced in the amount of $80 million to rebuild 70 Mulberry Street, and also to launch a 3-month community process, which we're in right now and which you are participating in, to gather public input about the future of the site. And as I just mentioned, previous tenants were promised to return to their business homes. And also something we wanted to mention is that in the meantime, since the last meetings that we had, there have been a protective covering that has been installed to guard the building of further damage. As part of the committee, of the commitment, there was also an advisory committee that has been formed. We just have heard a few elected officials that are part of the advisory committee. Other members of the advisory committee are the 5 tenants, which you can see here. And we are having regular meetings with the advisory committee on a weekly basis. And 3x3, so that's us, with Priyank and my other colleagues, have been chosen as the independent consultant to co-lead and facilitate this process to ensure inclusion, but also transparency of the process. And as you all know, the process itself has been initiated by the City of New York. And this is also for you as a background to understand of where we are. We are actually quite far into the process at this point. So if you look at the second diamond, so like that second diamond on the right, and we have a little marker here where it says we are here. So we are conducting the town hall meeting today and tomorrow the workshop. So we hope a lot of you are joining us tomorrow night as well. This is already the second round of community meetings. So we had a previous round that happened 3 weeks ago. And with this round of community meetings, the community vision process will also come to a close. As many of you know, there's also in the background, in parallel as a process, a survey that is currently being rolled out. I hope that many of you have received the invitation to take the survey. And we have also been an ongoing research on like the different propositions that are out there, the different ideas. We have received many documents and proposition papers from the community that are being reviewed by 3x3 and also feeding into the process. So if there's any further documents also on your behalf that you would like to share with us and that you would like to see included in the review process, please do share these with us. And all this will lead to a set of recommendations that are being forwarded to DCAS in the next coming weeks. And with that, I also wanted to share a quick summary of just some high-level findings from the very first round of the community outreach to see where we currently are. And we have summarized this here in one slide, kind of like showing some of the polarities and showing some of the common ground that we have been able to identify. So on the polarity side, we have the process duration. So not surprisingly, there is a polarity between having a really lengthy process that might allow for more consideration of different kind of needs, different need assessments. And then there is also fear of a too rushed process. We have polarities around preservation in terms of like one side having what can like restoring really what can be restored of the building to only maintaining the facade on the other side of the spectrum. We have polarities around the building heights, so whether and how many additional floors to add, and or whether it makes sense to return to the previous height, so no adding any additional space or whatsoever. Then we have use of like tension between different use scenarios. We have heard about a lot of different ideas of like how the future space could be used. Everything from like reaching from like affordable housing to a multi-purpose space or an arts and cultural center. And we have heard a lot of suggestions and ideas for the future management of the building. So also questions and concerns as well as propositions, how and who the building will be managed by and how these decisions will be made. So call for transparency around these processes. We have also found a lot of common ground across different groups. So for the process, particularly like not to be delayed post-alignment with the community to avoid a budget reduction. So there is a concern out in the community that the budget might be reduced and everyone is interested in not delaying the process any further and for tenants also to be able to return as early as possible. The tension that comes in here is about mostly like whether to expand the building or like to add additional space and whether that might have a consequence and also causing a more lengthier process. Common ground around the budget, common ground in the sense that there is this existing fear of potential budget cuts and a strong desire across different stakeholder groups how the budget will actually be divided up. Also, common ground and preservation, immediate protection of the building from severe weather conditions. So that's something I want to bring up or flag one more time. In the meantime, since the last meetings that we have had, there has actually been some movement and a protective layer has been added to the building to cover and avoid further damage to the building itself. Then in terms of space design, there's a lot of alignment in terms of like the interiors to be more modern, to be adaptable, to be ADA compliant, and to reflect the shared heritage of Chinatown, and also common ground around inclusion and accessibility. So there's really a very, very strong call around across all stakeholder groups for more space. That's one of the strongest alignments that we've seen, and a willingness to explore adding additional space in terms of floor, as long as like a ULURP process would not be required. Something else that we wanted to share is some of the values that we have heard through the community meetings and that have also been shared across different groups. So we have heard a very strong value around belonging, around well-being, resourcefulness, contribution, growth, inspiration, learning, and heritage. And the meeting today, as well as the meeting tomorrow, will be serving in some ways of like unpacking these further, but also are reflective of the kind of like programming that people have been demanding for the future of the building. So we have summarized this here again, where you see that many different ideas and suggestions that have been shared, responding to the current and future needs, ranging from, for example, like in terms of heritage, having an Asian American consciousness and pride, like an art center, culture and arts programming, an exhibition space, or in the area of learning, engaging with all ages, having additional educational programming, offering a playground for thinkers, doers, and learners. We have around the value of belonging and community, connecting the community and people, offering activities for residents, visitors, workers to discover a sense of belonging. We have a value around inspiration. So for 70 Mulberry to serve as a hub for art and culture, offering culture and arts programming and being a performance center. Around the resourcefulness of community, so becoming a community resource center in almost like one-stop multi-purpose place that offers a great variety of different community services. We have heard around the need for growth, so economic development and positive change. So to have more around like a small business incubator, offering additional office and studio space, but also to attract tourism and retails and services. We have heard around the need for well-being and community well-being, offering resources that are particularly around the well-being of residents in Chinatown. So offering health, like a health resource finder, recreational services to like a nursing home, and around contributions of being a new home at the center of Chinatown and offering affordable housing at the center of Chinatown. And these are some of the findings that we wanted to share, just so you have an update of like what has been brought to the table thus far. I don't want to hold us up any longer before we move into the town hall and open the town hall. But I wanted to share some quick instructions on how to participate in the town hall, since this is a bit of an unusual setting. Usually we would be in person. So we are sharing a few of the ground rules for the town hall also to be as productive as possible over the next 2.5 hours. So since we're conducting this on Zoom, please, if you would like to say something, there's 2 options that you have. One option is put your name into the chat box and let us know that you want to say something, or that you to speak up. We will be creating a list of speakers in the background, so please wait until your name is called. The other option is you raise your Zoom hand. There's a blue hand that you can activate. That also lets us know that you would like to speak up and take the floor. Again, we are having and maintaining a list in the background where we are having all the names of everyone to assure that everyone gets their turn. But since we're a lot of people and since this is digital, we're maintaining that list, and we're please asking you to wait until it's your turn. When you speak up, please introduce yourself. If you're representing a particular group or organization, please share that information. You will have a 2-minute slot to speak and address the room. There will be a stopwatch that you will see in the background of the screen that gives you 2 minutes. Since we're a lot of people, we really have to stick to those 2 minutes and ask you to please respect the timer in the background. And of course, the floor is open to any contributions. So you may want to respond to some of the things I have shared in the introduction of this meeting, or you may want to reply to someone else's comments, or you want to share other concerns about the future of 70 Mulberry Street that you are having and that you feel like need to be voiced. Again, the limit is 2 minutes, and it's up to you how you would want to use those 2 minutes. The other thing that we wanted to share again is like, again, we're a big group and we have a whole different perspectives and opinions on the future of the building. So we want to just emphasize to please keep an open-minded mentality and to focus on the ideas rather on like criticizing maybe other people personally, and rather than like really focusing on this very specific outcome, also try to maybe see where there may be some alignments with others or priorities that you see that are others addressing that might align with yours. As a last ask, we will be muting everyone, but in case you want to say or like speak up, please unmute yourself. Like the mute button will be on by default to avoid any disruptions during the meeting and background noise. So please just remember that whenever you want to speak up, then, or like whenever it's your turn to speak up, to also unmute yourself on the Zoom button. And with that, I'm going to get us started. And we are actually going to move into a mirror room. So that mirror room, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to ask Priyanka to share her screen. You will be able to follow along. We have a visual note-taking board in the background that will be updated on an ongoing basis. So as you can see, we have 3 different columns. We have a concerns and questions column. So that's something, if you would want to follow along a little bit, we're just keeping some notes here. And also have pinned to the right side of the board the rules of participating. So the kind of like etiquette for this like virtual town hall meeting. And we have the stopwatch in the middle of the screen that you can see that always starts at 2 minutes. As soon as you start speaking, we'll press the play button and you will see how much time is being left. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Priyanka for the first hour and a half. And I wish us all a fruitful discussion over the next couple of hours.
Thank you, Isabella. I think as Isabella explained, we've created this board just so that you can see what's being discussed. It's a long meeting. It's hard to keep track of conversation sometimes, and we have the instructions on the side for anyone who might be joining in later. With that, there are larger categories, which is just concerns and questions. I know this format might be familiar to those of you who joined in the first meeting. If you want to build on it, or if you want to express some additional concerns, we're open to any feedback today. Today is just meant for an open format. Speak what you have on mind, raise any red flags, or speak to these 3 larger categories that we have. That's role within the community, that 70 Mulberry Street has, programs and service offerings, and building design and constructions. With that, Colin, would you want to speak first?
Yeah, actually, I have a short question since the DCAS Deputy Commissioner is on here. I see him. Has DCAS moved out of position where they would allow an independent structural restoration engineer to go in there and examine their building before this 90-day community engagement process is over? The community requested this in one of the Zoom meetings I attended roughly 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Have you made any leeway with that?
Currently, to my knowledge, an independent assessment is not possible because of the huge liability, like for anyone outside of the city to enter the building. There are liability concerns, but this is something that is an ongoing question. Like it's an open question with DCAS that has still not been closed fully.
Well, the DCAS has stated that they'll allow someone in after the 90-day engagement process, and the community decides how to proceed. But that seems to me like, putting on your shoe before you put on your socks. It's kind of like a backwards approach. I mean, there's a crew working on it now, and they hauled up tons of equipment. So if that building can support tons of equipment, I'm sure 200-pound men can surely won't fall through the floor.
Anything else that you would want to speak to, Colin?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
So just to remind Colin, you as well as everyone else, we have 2 minutes for each person. So we'll be doing the whole round. And then when it stops, nobody else, then we'll come back again, just so you know. All right. Ava, would you want to speak next?
Thank you. I am a professor, but I'm speaking to you today as someone whose family has lived in Chinatown continuously for over 100 years. And I want to talk about the importance of this building. When my family escaped the violence out west in the 19th century, they found a refuge in New York's Chinatown. And the first generation of Americans in my family were educated at 70 Mulberry. These were my grandparents, my parents, my aunts, and my uncles. There they learned English, they learned American values, they learned civic engagement and the importance of voting. This building is historic and it means a lot to my family, but it's also part of the cultural fabric of Chinatown. And I would hate to see it become torn down like the old Penn Station. Fei Chu Mitsuda, who was the former director of MoCA, called the building an artifact itself, meriting historic preservations. There, they held alumni reunions in the 1980s, which my grandfather helped to organize on behalf of MoCA. They produced artifacts, photographs, and stories for future exhibits, including MoCA's own permanent collection. There is, and I want to stress this, there is a cultural and historic legacy that is embedded in the bones of this building. And we need to maintain that legacy by keeping the foundation and what remains and build up from there. We need to do this so that future generations can know and understand this history as you now know this history. And I hope that everyone on this call considers this legacy for Chinese Americans every single time you look at this site. The things that I want to see are the building preserved and it built up so that within the continued land use requirements, right? And the same zoning, and it still function as a space for all the various nonprofits that we have that are so important to the community. I don't think that there's this erroneous feeling, I think, oh, I see I have a 0 minute. Okay, but that is my point. Keep this current structure and build up from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva, and thank you for observing the time as well. Victor, would you want to speak next?
Hello?
Me?
Victor Hugh?
Oh, Victor. Okay.
I really had nothing to say. I answered my survey fully. That was my contribution.
Okay, I thought you'd raised your hand or put in your name.
No, not me.
I have Richard Moses next on the list.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm Richard Moses from...
Hello? Hey, this is Victor. Can I speak?
Oh, that Victor, okay.
Yes, hold on. Yes.
I mean, you're talking to the other Victor. Sorry. My name is Victor Huey. I represent COMA, Chinatown Organization for Media Awakening. Basically, we're media professionals. And especially in this age of pandemic, you know, there's been a lot of negative publicity and press about Chinatown and Chinese people in general. It also brings back that, you know, Chinatown has always operated in the old world manner, you know, because of the exclusion laws and disenfranchising. Most of the Chinatown always operated in its own insular way. And dealing with City Hall was always a matter of bribery, or because voting, we were not allowed to vote. But we're in a new generation, it's 2020. And when Chinatown was at its knees because of COVID, young people have stepped up using new technology to try to help the current situation through, raising funds and things like that. We need young people, new modern ideology to save Chinatown. Most of the people who lived in Chinatown have moved away. We still live here. The people who are still in Chinatown, who are giving back, still live here. And we have a stake in this community. What's happening right now is that this building, for whatever it is the most valuable piece of property in Chinatown right now. As a development site, once you demolish it, that land is worth more. Parking lots on Kennedy Street went for $50 million. The community needs a community center. Chinatown has spent, in taxes, $400 million a year. We get nothing back. The Asian American population in New York is now 14%, yet we only get 4% of the city budget. When is City Hall going to give something back to Chinatown? Not just to a few select backdoor people who make deals behind the door. We need people who are going to give back, who really care about Chinatown and keeping it going for the future. This site could be that site to build a new Chinatown community center that will unite all the Chinatowns that have fled Manhattan Chinatown because it's so damn expensive. We need a place to help people organize, to talk amongst ourselves, so we can have a voting block to tell the city, we're not doing backdoor anymore. We're gonna vote people in, and we need to organize ourselves, and we demand that the city do the right thing.
Thank you, Victor. Richard, would you want to speak next?
Yes, thank you. I'm Richard Moses from Lower East Side Preservation Initiative, and I want to speak on two things. One is to follow up on what Carl and Chen had just said about the preservation assessment. And in terms of liabilities for people coming onto the site, the city can certainly find a way to bring on a consultant who's a recognized preservation architectural engineering firm to do the assessment. And once the city brings on this consultant, automatically the liability issue goes away. So we don't see any reason why that should be holding it up. Our concern is that it's not happening because the preservation option is not being taken as seriously as it should be. And that brings me to my second point, which is on your chart of dualities and polarities. And under preservation, you had restore what can be restored, and then on the opposite side, only the stone facade, which, I appreciate trying to kind of encapsulate the thinking here. But in reality, I think that the most people with the preservation sensibility kind of feel that the interior should be modernized, that the exterior should be restored, and that new building should be, the new construction should be very respectful to the historic appearance of the building. And so there may be some variations on that theme, but the duality on that is building a 20-story building that has no relationship to historic Chinatown. And so in terms of the building height, again, I think everybody is on board with the idea of some additional floor space in there. It's just a matter of whether we're talking about a massive amount of floor space, or we're talking about floor space that's put in very sensitive locations, and that respects the historic street wall and appearance of the building. So those are my concerns, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard. Because you wanted to keep it short, the overview of the findings definitely do not encapsulate everything, but your points noted, and they are very much within the purview of what we found as well. Shirley, would you want to speak next? Shirley Moy.
Okay, hang on one second. Hi, I'm Shirley Moy. I'm an architect by training. I have grown up on Mulberry Street, about a block away from this site, and I'm a public architect. And you mentioned that we don't want Penn Station. I'm working on fixing Penn Station, but anyways, I also worked on getting the new Grand Streets there. I'm a pragmatic architect, and the question is, how do we get um, whatever we need to get done. And the key item here is I do recognize the preservationists have a valid point, because the FAR that's there, I think that the building can be saved, and we have to figure out the programming of what goes into the building. But to knock down the building and build in taller new story would take actually longer. And I think that the brick, we have to figure out how much damage the bricks have been done and whether or not it can be salvaged. I had saved 181st Street and 168th Street Station. We inserted a historic brick, I guess, concrete liner into the building. The question here is whether the building is stabilized enough to insert a new steel frame within the structure and maybe have a glass addition up on top, and to maximize whatever FAR. To be able to do a 12-story building, etc., you're going to have to go through ULURP, which is a whole nother ball of wax. And having done 96th Street and gone through ULURP, it takes like 2-3 years. So the question is for the community, what goes into the building and how we rebuild the building in a sensitive manner, I think should be given further thought. There are, I think DCAS should hire proper professionals to be able to evaluate whether or not the masonry facade can be saved, because many, I'll call it, types of buildings like this, you can gut the interior and get a really nice historic, looking modern building, and it will add to the character of our community. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yin, would you want to speak next from Think Chinatown?
Hi, this is Yen Kong. I'm an architect by training, and also a resident of Chinatown, and also run Think Chinatown, a cultural nonprofit based here in Manhattan's Chinatown. There's so many things to say about this very important site. I totally understand that our community has so many needs and so many hopes that are placed on this one site. But I think in our process, in order for us to have fruitful conversation, we need to take a step back and really map all of our neighborhood assets. So we understand exactly what the need is for things like a gym or senior housing, cultural space. So we can really see how much we need these spaces, and also where there might be similar assets that are underutilized. Also want to reiterate some of the points, because I'm still hearing this duality between the speed of rebuilding and use of historic elements. It is not a choice. It is definitely something that can be done, actually are helping each other. Both of those causes are of one. So we can definitely rebuild faster and use historic sites. And the way we would know about this, again, is to have third-party assessment of these things. So that is, again, very important. I also can't see how much, I'm about at times, but I just hope that people also understand this also duality between public and private use of space. So residential use will have some opposition to the public needs of nonprofit space, and that's something we should explore on a lot of the unfortunate failures of Confucius Plaza and how public space is not so public anymore. So I hope we can talk more about that.
Thank you. Jansen, would you want to speak next?
Sure. Hi, my name is Jan Sin, and I'm the logistical coordinator and a very long-time member of the United East Athletics Association, which is one of the 5 tenants of 70 Mulberry. And while I didn't live at UEAA, I often felt like I did because my family and I were there every week. And I feel like I definitely grew up there. And I hear everyone's concerns about what this building could be and what it should be and the needs of the community in Chinatown. But I think ultimately what I would like to see is just to get back in the building as soon as possible, because all of our program has basically been displaced. We no longer have a hub where people can connect. There is a sense of no longer belonging because we don't have meetings there anymore. I started the Young Women's Leadership Program, which empowers young women, and we had mentoring programs and workshops and classes, and we haven't been able to do that. We have members on this call who are on the Dragon Boat team, and they haven't been able to practice. People on the Lion Dance team, and they haven't been able to practice. We have a soccer team that practices in Columbus Park, and afterwards they would come back to UEAA and take emotional intelligence classes, and those have been canceled. And barring the pandemic, these classes and activities would have continued. We also have activities for senior citizens. They play chess. We had a ping pong table. So I would say, as someone who has been directly affected because I'm a member of UEAA, this has been a huge and drastic change to our lives and the way we live and the way we enjoy our lives. So my aim and goal, I think, for our organization in general is just to get back into that space as soon as possible. It'd be great to build up and to expand, but the ultimate goal is just to return. Thanks.
Thank you, Jansen. Fanny, would you want to go next?
Yeah, let me just start the video. Hi, my name's Fanny and I'm a community member. First off, I want to say, is there a representative from DCAS here at all by any chance? I mean, I really don't understand the point of this town hall if they're not even here to like hear these ideas and comments and complaints and questions. I mean, I feel like they haven't even answered any questions. It just feels like, you know, you've been, you know, doing these meetings and workshops, which is great, but I feel like we're just, I don't know, just speaking to deaf ears. So I'm basically, again, I'm just gonna repeat myself and say the points that are important to me about this building. So one, I just think that that is a really lame excuse that it's a liability issue not to have an assessment, a preservation assessment or an independent assessment of some type. I mean, it's like when you're sick, you go to the doctor, you know, instead of doing tests and evaluations to see what is wrong, you're discussing, you know, you're discussing possible options to fix whatever the problem is. I mean, that just doesn't make sense, right? So, and then the other point that I want to repeat is also this 80 million. I don't understand how it is guaranteed, especially when the mayor is going to be leaving next year. So, I mean, is it a line in the capital budget for this 70 Mulberry Street building or what? Because otherwise this is nothing. You know, we don't have any money for this. And then the last thing we need is to have a developer come in and say, and bail us out once you guys knock down this building, whatever. So that's what I have to say. Thanks.
Just to clarify, what was brought up earlier, that city can bring on consultant for preservation assessment, is very much an option that DCAS is considering. It's just that it cannot allow an independent assessment outside of it. So I just wanted to clarify that. And the 80 million, as to my knowledge, DCAS has confirmed that that's available as well.
Available, but it's where? I mean, is it available tomorrow? I mean, yeah, I have money available too. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. You know, it's like we need proof. We need some sort of a guarantee. And it's like we've been saying this from the beginning, you know, and this is just we're just going to repeat ourselves over and over again.
And we have continuously iterated that in our findings as well, and it would be there in the report. Rest assured that you wouldn't be unheard. And there are multiple representatives from DCAS in this meeting and they have been in the first round of meetings as well, and they are hearing everything that you're saying.
I mean, are they going to speak at all? Or, I mean, are they just going to listen? I mean, I don't understand why can't they like answer some of the questions?
The meeting is meant to hear the community. To the extent answers could be provided, I am providing at this moment. If not, they would be addressed through the report.
Okay, well, so far these answers are not acceptable. So
I understand, and I have noted that down again. Eric, would you want to go next? Eric Poon?
Yep, sure thing. So thank you very much for the invitation to speak here. My name is Eric Poon. I am one of the members of United East Athletics Association. I've actually been a member since I was about 5 years old when I was first eligible for the programs. So growing up in the community, I think my family was there. I at one point lived in Chinatown. 70 Mulberry Street is really center to what we recognize as community and to everything that we that we know is Chinatown. When I think about what do I do there on weekends, I would go to different piano classes, art classes, music classes, be able to learn sports and find mentors and find belonging. So and I would venture as far to say that my experience is definitely not unique. Certainly a lot of the people on the line here and the many thousands upon thousands of people that are not on the line here. All of us probably grew up in Chinatown or near Chinatown and had some experience with the services that are offered by the nonprofits at 70 Mulberry Street. So I think if I were to say one thing this entire call, I would really like to stress the importance of timeliness. Right. Yes, it's a great opportunity for many things, but at the same time, we are also losing out on the amount of time that we have in this space. As of right now, we don't have that space, and all of the nonprofits, all of these services that would otherwise be provided, does not have a belonging, and we don't have a way of reaching out to the community and providing that service. So above all else, I think we should take into consideration the speed at which we can get back into the building so we can start providing these services to the community again. It was certainly a key part of my growing up and of my life, and I do see that continuing into the future as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Shannon Daniels, would you want to go next? I see you have to leave in 3 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So my name is Shannon, and I grew up in this neighborhood, and I'm a community member. And I guess one thing that I want to reiterate that I know was touched upon earlier in the presentation was making this building as accessible as possible and as compliant to ADA standards as possible, while also, preserving a lot of the aesthetics parts of it. I just think it's really important, especially, for everybody to be able to access this building that represents so much for our community. And so that's mostly what I wanted to say, making sure that everything is ADA compliant, that there are ramps, that there's an elevator, that it truly is inclusive for everyone.
Thank you, Fanny. Eric? Oh, sorry, you already spoke. Eric Chu, would you want to speak next?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to reiterate that, I worry about the fully funding element and that it disappears or something goes awry and doesn't happen. I truly hope that there's some way of ensuring that the funding pledge is met, and there's some way of giving that reassurance. But I want to see a beautiful building here that attracts, that's necessary for the community, for the cultural groups beyond the 5, and help visitors come and understand Chinatown. I think it could be a boon to all of that. I really believe in keeping the stone base and the brick tower if possible. And I think the engineering report is essential for that. I think the street wall shouldn't be any higher than what the existing foundations should hold, which is about 6 stories. And the building could be taller, but it would be taller set back from the street wall. And I studied it, I'm an architect. As of right, you could get a 9-story building, more or less. Now, if the building wanted to be taller to accommodate more program, well, I've been thinking I could be open to that, but the issue is the time. If there's a lengthy process, then maybe it's not worth it. Or if it is a lengthy process, can the city provide some kind of temporary spaces for use by the cultural groups who are displaced? So there may be a middle ground, but it should be for culture, and it should be fast, and it would be a real boon to the community and for the visitors coming into Chinatown to explore Chinatown for all it's worth.
Thank
That's
you.
what I'm
Thank you, Eric. Anyone else wants to speak? I don't see anyone else. Susan? Do you want to go next?
Okay. I've been thinking more and more about providing a theater space as a cultural momentum to like develop actors and actresses that as Asians we lack in the public images. And this will also provide playwrights, writers to add to the Chinatown story if there's a space like that. The reason why I'm saying these things is because when I was at the basement workshop, we were able to convert an 80,000 square raw loft into a performance space, a library, woodworking workshop, a print shop for photographers, a gallery space, and an office space. Now, why? I mean, and I'm the one that wrote the first proposal to have MoCA become what it is. But I'm very disappointed with MoCA because they don't provide services for the community. They only hire students, I don't know, to set up some programs, but it's inconsistent programs. I mean, so in terms of develop, an 80,000 square feet where even MoCA began and put an exhibit together for the Museum of Immigrants, which was the first, I guess, method to explain the Chinese in America, the historical moments to immigrants. But that's why I think a theater space and different artistic workshops would help.
I would love to come back to you, Susan, to understand better, like what kind of theater space you're talking about, what size. But just because we're running out of time, I will just go to the next person. Victoria, respond. Would you want to go next?
Which Victor?
Yes, Victoria. Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Victoria Respond. I'm a local business owner at 120 Walker Street, and we're architects in the neighborhood. We've been there for the past almost 10 years. And I just wanted to make a point of, I think that we really think that that 70 Mulberry was not only an architectural, but a cultural important place in Chinatown. And I really think we agree with Eric Chu, who talked about the scale of the building and why that is important. And its edge on the edge of the park. It's just a very important building. And I think to address some of the things that people talked about as a professional working architect, there are professionals that can come and be hired to assess the building and for its buildability, trying to maintain the masonry as much as possible or to continue working with the masonry. There are professionals that can help us understand what is the best scale and the quickest kind of way for this project to continue. And I think in terms of program, obviously evaluation has to be made about like what programs were there, what ones would continue, and what could be added to the program of what's needed in the neighborhood. That stuff all takes time. So just to keep in mind that, yeah, so that,
I mean, we can do it out in the streets, but then, I mean, you know, there's no shelter with that.
Right, exactly. So like, we need to find, I think, temporary places for people to continue the things that they've been doing, because it will take time to do it right. And there is ways to expedite that work. So I know my time is up, but I just wanted to put our 2 cents in for, as professionals, we know that these things can be evaluated. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Chen, do you want to connect?
Hi. Yes. Sorry, my camera's not working, but I love seeing all of you. My name is Amy Chen. My grandfather arrived in Chinatown in 1903, and for the nearly 120 years since then, my family and I have been a part of this community. Throughout all this time, 70 Mulberry Street has been a cornerstone in the neighborhood, whether as a beloved public school or a community cultural hub or an entry point for generations of immigrants. And I myself have worked in Chinatown for over 40 years and participated in numerous programs there. We are the current guardians of a neighborhood legacy. This is an important corner, and the city really must construct something special that will serve as a beacon and a gateway connecting the past and present and Chinatown with the rest of the world. I strongly support restoring the historic facade and significant architectural elements of the building. There are many creative ways to achieve all of this without obliterating the architectural importance of the C.B. Snyder design. Most importantly, 70 Mulberry Street must remain a dedicated space for public and community use with no changes to the current zoning regulations regarding height and use. There should not be housing on this site. This is a rare public space in the heart of Chinatown and should be maximized to serve as many people as possible and not given over to individual private residences. Whatever is built should get former nonprofit tenants back to their operations quickly. And at the same time, it should create more space for other community-based organizations serving Chinatown and to incubate budding talents and new businesses that are our next generation and our future. Based on expert analysis that we've heard in this town hall and other places, the interior space can be reconfigured more efficiently, and even under current zoning, the amount of space can be doubled. If designed and managed properly, much of the space can be multi-purpose, shared swing spaces for a variety of uses. This would ensure that 70 Mulberry Street will be a constant hub of activity that generates a lively streetscape and a flow of visitors and customers to local businesses. In major cities around the world, we've seen how good design can bring the community closer together and imaginatively weave in the historic past to a thriving future. And for examples, we have to look no further than the Brooklyn Academy of Music and the network of cultural spaces in downtown Brooklyn that's rejuvenated that neighborhood, or in other Asian American communities like Los Angeles Japanese American Community and Cultural Center. This could be Chinatown's Apollo Theater or Schomburg Center, and better,
So let's build something visionary that benefits the whole community and put aside some of our individual personal self-interest. That's it.
Thank you. That was a lot captured in 2 minutes. Thank you for that, Amy. Hongshin Lee, would you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Hong Lee, Executive Director of CMP. We are one of the 5 tenants in the 70 Mulberry Street building. We provide workforce development, economic development services to the community. I think in the interest of diversity, actually, who are we without diversity? I think we have our own view of how the building should be a service hub for the community, which is not different from a lot of statements here. But we are also supporting building up to include senior housing. So it's not affordable housing for anyone low moderate income, but it's senior housing that will house the increasingly aging population in the community. We also support commercial space, which we could use the income from the commercial space to subsidize maintenance and operating costs of the building, given that it's housing, it's housing nonprofit space. We feel that this is a very rare, and we don't want it to repeat, an opportunity for us to expand the capacity of this building. I said we don't want to repeat it because it takes a tragedy to open up this window of opportunity, and I ever don't want to see another opportunity like this because of the tragedy. But since it happened, this is an opportunity for us to expand the capacity of the building, to build up the building. And we support of keeping the facade in whichever way we could, but I think our utmost priority is to expand the capacity of the building to serve the community. Do we have enough, a strong enough foundation to support a multi-level building that includes senior housing? That will be up to the decision of architect or the engineer that would take an assessment of the building. But we do, that's what we want to do, is to really build a building that is for generations to come. It's not just for our current needs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Hong.
Thank
Jenny,
you.
would you want to go next? Jenny, you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny, and I'm a member of the United East Athletics Association. I've heard and seen a lot of comments about, building up and, redeveloping the space and recreating it to be something better. I think out of all the tenants that have been displaced, UAA has still have not been relocated to a new space. So I would like to say that it's, maybe a little bit easier for some organizations than others. But, to say some of these things, to have some of these views, but we still have, the city still has not found us a space yet. And, this is definitely on the forefront of our members' minds, that we need to have a space to use as quickly as possible when things can return to normal, due to COVID. But we do need some assistance, some more assistance from the city, if possible. It's been 9 months and we still don't have a space yet. So that's kind of, I wanted to kind of reemphasize that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Richard Leon, would you want to speak next?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm speaking on behalf of my mother here, Sue Leong. She's a member of the Chinatown Senior Center. which has been there for about 40 years. And it used to take up the entire ground floor. So she wants to sort of remind everybody that it was a very important gathering place for about 300 seniors each and every day, 5 days a week. A gathering place, a place for lunch. On top of that, other uses were musical performances, there were dance classes, there were Tai Chi classes, drawing classes, computer classes, and English classes. So there were a lot of uses in there that were, that, you know, we would like to see restored. So in addition to the many good uses that have been proposed, we would like to just remind everybody that we wouldn't like to see the senior center forgotten about. And that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. It would definitely not be forgotten. All the tenants would definitely go back to the building with their existing services, for sure. That's guaranteed. Amy Sue, would you want to go next?
Yes, hi. I am a member of the United East Ethnic Association, and I have been a volunteer to that program for like the last 10 years, and it offers a lot of services to for youth program to develop their leadership, and that's where I have also like helped me with my career development as well as my leadership skill. So right now we don't have a home yet, and it's really important for us to have a place to continue this leadership program and as well as program for the youth organizing youth programs for other activities. So right now what we are looking for, it's really a home to go back to, and that's our priority right now. That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Amy. Am I missing anyone? If not, I would encourage anyone else who wants to go the second time. Just want to make sure.
Hi, my name is Guido Hartre. I would love to say a few words. So I'm an architect, and I got to know 70 Mulberry first off working on the CREATE process to try to create space for cultural organizations in Chinatown. And then I got to know the building again because my children went to school on Hester Street at PS 42, and they participated in the dance program in the building and continue to do dance lessons with Chen Dance up until the fire. So it was a tragic loss. And you know, visiting the building every weekend and to kind of drop off or pick up kids, I do have to tell you, you know, even though, you know, we're architects, we love to design, you know, beautiful new buildings, but there are certain qualities that you have in a historic building that are very hard to reproduce from nothing. And so that's one thing that I think that there's a lot of value there, and it's hard. It's going to be hard to just reproduce that. The other thing I would say is that there is also a value in, you know, yes, the existing building places certain limits on what you can do, but those limits are also something that that help you complete the design in less time.
Sorry, let me just mute where the noise is coming from. Is that from your background, actually?
It's not, no.
No?
No, I think that's from an individual Sue there.
Anyway, I can wrap it up now.
Go ahead.
So when you kind of decide that the site is a blank slate and you can do anything with it, that also adds a lot to the time that it's going to take to go through all the decisions. To some extent, yes, the historic building places certain limits, but those limits are also decisions that you don't have to go through in planning out the future of the building. And so when you think about a ULURP process, yes, it may be adding
a year in terms of the technical time to go through the ULURP, but it could be adding 2 or 3 years in terms of the time necessary to get to a consensus for what you're going to include in the ULURP. So building back on the historic, within the historic structure, also saves time in terms of decisions as well as time in terms of construction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Echo, would you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. My name is Echo Wang. I'm with United East Athletics Association. I have been the volunteers with the organization since 1991. I hear a lot of people with different opinions. However, I want to bring up something to the public that this building did not only serve our service recipients, we bring people together to Chinatown. As the gentleman just said, he dropped off his kids every weekend. Same as United East, we have parents coming to Chinatown, dropping off their kids, and our kids come back. They grow up within the organization, learn leadership program, learn arts and craft, learn dragon bow, our culture, Chinese culture, lion dance, but they come back. Those who spoken earlier, all 4 of them have been participants of United East and come back and contribute to the organizations. All the other programs serve the same purpose. If it's not for the pandemic, all these people who drop off their kids who come to classes in Chinatown, come to CMP's classes, they contribute to the economic development of Chinatown. They come to do their grocery shopping while they're waiting for their kids. They have dinner, they have lunch there. We're not just programs serving people coming to the building. We also have all our participants building up Chinatown. I just want to make this point clear. Without the building, as long as the building is idle, not being built, we don't know how many of these patrons we lost in Chinatown. Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you, Echo. I see people raising hands, or participants who've already spoken raising hands. Just want to ask to people or participants who've not spoken yet, if anyone wants to come ahead and speak first before I go to the participants who have already spoken. No? Shirley, I see your hand is raised. Do you want to speak again?
I want to reiterate what Guido had just said. Having done ULURP, the process takes a long time, and I think that we would be best served if everyone wants to get back as soon as possible to reconstruct the building and figure out what program goes in there, that we should live within the constraints of what the site's offering, because that will be the site constraint will cause us to help whatever the design is appropriate for the site without making it overwhelming. And I think that it will be benefit, and we will not go into a rabbit hole that will take us 3 years out of the way. You will lose your funding, you will not get the tenants back, and it won't happen. I think we should keep the use the way it is. To add extra types of uses like, you know, housing and senior housing, yes, they're important in the community. Maybe we can find different sites, but to detract from the mission of what is able to be provided in the $80 million is a, we should not detract from our mission to get the community groups back in the space, rebuild the project the best we can with the dollars provided in the most expedient manner possible. So that's my comment, having done a lot of these public type projects, you know, they can take a long time.
Thank you, Shirley. Hong, did you raise your hand as well to speak the second time?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you let our executive director is trying to get into the meeting. He's been in the waiting room for quite some time.
I don't see anyone in the waiting room. Can you make sure that he?
Sure, I'll reach out to him. Thank you.
Hi, I believe I'm called. I just want to add to that I think, yes, ULURP could be a very complicated and time-consuming process, but there are also examples that ULURP can be in a very short and quick process, depending on whether the community all agree and support, and the elected officials support the proposal. So if we have a proposal that can satisfy a majority of the community, and with the support of the elected official, I think the ULURP process could be very quick. I don't want the ULURP process be the only reason to stop this opportunity for us to build a community center that is usable for the community for a long time to come.
Thanks, Hong. I see Echo Wong.
I also have concerns. We would all like to see building more space, but we only have limited money right now. The mayor committed $80 million. It sounds a lot, but when you come to build a building, it's not a lot. And unless we can find a way to find monies, we do not want to delay the process and losing out the $80 million. Hopefully we can come to a compromise how the site can be used, can be built with the money that is already committed to this location. But if we're talking about, we have to go through not just ULURP to get approval to build up even higher, but also have to get money to start constructions, we may be talking about a long time.
Mm-hmm. Susan Chen, would you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Priyanka. I had participated in the earlier community visioning session, and I'm an architect and have also worked at the Department of Cultural Affairs supporting Museum of Chinese in Americas, as well as Chen and Dancers. And I really believe that, and would like to reiterate, that having the cultural use and having this as a community center is really important. My aunt had attended the senior center, so having all of these existing tenants come back in some capacity, and I feel like the young people are really an important part of the program here as well, to carry on our heritage. So speaking not only as an architect, as in being interested in preserving the building, as I said at the earlier sessions, my father had attended PS 23, and this has always been, for me, the heart of Chinatown. And my aunt had the beauty shop across the street, and it was a place where we would go and play. So, I mean, this has been such a resource for Chinatown, and is known not just in our own community, but across the nation. So I would really advocate for its use, its continued preservation, as well as adaptation for additional community uses where it can be the pride of the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Victor Hugh, would you want to go next?
Yes, I do. Let me unmute. Hello, can you hear me? Testing. Okay.
Yes.
I think the biggest problem here is the political nature of the building. De Blasio promised $80 million, but when we went to check the city budget line item, there's no line item committed to this money. That $80 million is bogus. It's not there. The city does not have a budget. So let's wipe out the promise, because that's all it is. The only way that Chinatown is going to get something is that we may have to raise the money ourselves. Just give us the land. We can raise the money. It costs the city $6 million to take down 3 stories using a union contractor. You know how much it's going to take to rebuild that building using city union contractors? I can guarantee you it's going to be a lot more than $80 million, being a local union member for 42 years. So let's be real. Chinatown has to organize itself to select the next mayor who will make that commitment to Chinatown. The next city council member to fight for us, because they fought for the jail and they got the jail ran through. That ULIP process went like that. Why did it happen? Promises were made, deals were made. We don't want backdoor deals in this process. We will be watching and we will raise the money, but no more backdoor deals. Chinatown city owes Chinatown. And this $80 million that everybody's holding, oh, we're gonna get $80 million. It isn't there.
What are you trying to say, Vic?
Victor, we don't have anyone else who has to go next, but
hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Who's that?
Yeah, this is Joe Chen. I've been waving my hand, I think, for the last 15 minutes. Can you hear me?
Oh, we don't see it, but please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. This is Joe Chen. I'm a resident and also former alumni PS23, friend of Victor's and Colin here. I pretty much right now, the only thing I want for 7 Mulberry Street not to happen is what happened to the Italian Museum, where they just totally demolished everything. As far as the structure of the remaining itself, I mean, I'm not an architect, but I do have the background with structural engineering, with aerodynamics and stuff like that, and the other hoopla, whatever. I've also taken numerous pictures of all the I-beam, that the structure that's inside. And I've also taken pictures during the time of the fire. The structure is sound. The foundation is also sound. But the only thing it's amazing to hear everybody wants to put things in there. But right now we don't have a building to put things in. So how about we just kind of like get the building up, and then with all the new technologies and engineering, the way they're pouring concretes, have an open space. And what you can do with the space is later on, and then you can just leave the walls, and then, hey, we can have all the space and just allot whatever space that's going to be available. But currently, right now, you don't even have a structure. And then everybody wants a piece of it. And yes, I understand. CMP's, it's in there, the dance company, the cultural center. But let's get the city to put this building up so we can have a building to put things in. That's an engineering thing, an architectural thing. We can all talk about what we would like to be in the building, but right now we don't have a building. So let's be realistic and say, build it. Once you build it, then everybody can come. That's all I have to say right now, because at this moment, I'm walking down the street, down the block. Yes, I live down the block. And all I'm seeing right now is my school. Half of it's torn down. Who know what the hell they're doing right now with the I-beams inside. And, knowing all the people that I grew up in my community, I don't want to comment on things that I should be, kept to myself after living in Mulberry Street for more than half a century and knowing how the World Trade Center is built, and as far as like how the structures and design, the only thing right now that I want City Hall or the government is to give us back our building so we can put all the wonderful things that we're asking for in that building. Thank you. Catch you all later. Peace out.
Thanks, Joe. Eric Poon, would you want to speak next?
Hey, so guys, it's me again. So just long story short, I think if I were to reflect a little bit on what I've been hearing tonight, everyone here is saying a lot of things in common, right? All the things that were in the building are all good. All of us have been beneficiaries of what the building was able to stand for and provide, and we all want to make sure that whatever communities end up that are around the building continue to and will quickly be able to continue receiving the services that the building was once providing. So just taking all those common things and this common goal amongst everyone here into consideration, I would just summarize this as let's get it rebuilt as soon as possible in the best way possible, and so that all of us that are just yearning for the opportunity to serve our community again can go ahead and restore those services ASAP.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, it's not just in this meeting. We've seen a large common ground through the surveys, through the community around meeting one. There are more alignments and more that brings the community together than the polarities, and even polarities do not so wide in the spectrum as much as we thought it would be in the first meeting. And it's amazing to see each participants also reflecting on other participants to further see where the common ground could be. Carl and Chen, would you want to go again?
Well, okay, I'll talk. So I've attended several of these meetings, the community board meetings, the DCAS meetings, and it was seen that the consensus is to save the facade, build a new structure from within if possible, or not save the surviving foundation and rebuild up from there. All right, so 2 weeks ago, a city contractors came back and they're capping the building now. All right, they're putting a temporary roof on it. Since they're putting a temporary roof on it, is it possible while we still in this prolonged dialogue about how to move forward, can we restore the ground, the basement, the ground floor, get the amenities back in there, put the seniors back, and maybe put the second floor back into service while we decide after the community decides 10 years from now, build on top of that or something. All right. I mean, there's an input box that was a week delayed, and there's a little wooden mailbox nailed to the construction retaining wall right now. That's a week late for community members to stuff in their paper surveys if they printed it out. But somehow I understand that ballot box is being stuffed by like-minded individuals. So I mean, I think you have enough through these several meetings you had to draw a conclusion and just move on to the next phase. Because realistically, that $80 million is not really there, and we need to expedite this process so we can get the shovels in the ground to start moving forward on this. Right? This whole process, when it was set up, it was to push it into the next administration anyway. But so let's cut the timeline shorter and move ahead.
Thanks, Colin. It is a 90-day community visioning process. And as mentioned before, this is the last round of meeting, and we will work on the report after this and after all the surveys have the deadlines, which we would be mentioning in the next steps at the end of the meeting as well. And the report will come out soon in December. Victor Papa, would you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I came into this meeting a little late, but something I've been wanting to mention from the start, which I think is important for all of us to anticipate, a new council member and a new mayor, which is what I think is going to prevent any hard and fast conclusions about that building at this time. I think they're just waiting. This period of time is going to be, I guess, discussing the building, but we all have to have faith that we will save the building. And I just think we're going to have to wait until there's a new mayor. The other thing that I want to stress is that Chinatown and Little Italy have had a mutual immigrant experience for the past 100 years. And that school was a school to Chinese and Italian immigrants. And with regard to the question of the use of the building, I believe that the immigrant experience of both those national groups was so unique in New York history and in American history that something in that building should somehow note that, or maybe a museum that could recall that very important, very difficult experience, immigrant experience, that both groups endured for over 100 years. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Chen, would you want to go next?
Sorry, Priyanka, I forgot to lower my hand.
No worries. Richard Moses.
Yes, thanks. I think that what should be coming down the pike sooner rather than later is a meeting with community members and DCAS. And I know that the community groups that are in the or have been in the building have been meeting with DCAS. I think that's great. But I also think that DCAS needs to hear firsthand from the various vantage points in the community of, what should be done to the building. And with all due respect to this process, which I think is useful in bringing everybody together, when DCAS, reviews the results of these meetings, it's not going to have the same immediacy as talking to the people face to face, or at least face to face on Zoom, as good as we can get at this point, and hearing the emotion behind the desires of individuals to get back in the building, community members to get the building back, neighbors to get the building back operational again, preservationists to save one of the most important historic buildings in Chinatown, if not downtown. All of these concerns, as has been pointing out, are not at cross purposes, but they need to be emphasized, because otherwise, our discussions, I fear, are just going to go into thin air.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks. I would want to reiterate that different members from DCAS have been part of each community meeting, and they've been hearing everything that you're saying firsthand, not just from us. But point taken, a meeting between DCAS and a community member addressing some of the questions and other concerns that have been raised in the meeting would have a different nature than what this process is aiming towards, which is bringing everyone together. So we will definitely take that to DCAS.
And I would add that, you know, it should be a commissioner or someone at that level from DCAS that's attending, as well as the elected officials, so that there's a real, you know, kind of political weight to the meetings.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that suggestion. Multiple people who've raised hand. I just want to see if there is someone who's not spoken before. Leslie Leong, would you want to go next?
Yes. Yes. Can you see me?
We can hear you. It's a long list of videos, so it's okay. Don't worry about it.
I think there's two issues. One is a physical issue that we can be ably guided by many of the architects that's in on this call. And then there's the other hand, there's issue regarding programming. Programming is a very flexible thing. And that will probably change over the years as we go 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the line. Programming will evolve. I'm not an architect, but I think one of the things that the architects who do start designing this needs to do is that you have to build in the ultimate flexibility. The idea of rebuilding it, other than the facade, I don't think is doable, because this was built under the old codes and everything, and just access for stairs and things like that, and ADA requirements are going to cause you to change the insides significantly. But my vision in terms of space is not a vision, but the idea I have is that when one of the remarkable things you do is in New York, when you go to the theater and you watch the scene changes, they have a blank stage, and they could turn that into anything depending on the scene. And I think the building has to be essentially that type of building. You could turn it into any kind of space you need. There may be some specialized things like theaters and theater space, auditorium space that's fixed. But every other space should have the ultimate in flexibility, with plenty of electrical, with high-speed internet throughout the building in anticipation of, forget gigabit service, think of, multi-gigabit service for the future. I think that from a programming point of view, you need to, as a former student at PS23, a long time ago, I think we need to adhere to its education background and have training and classes, not only cultural, but training for new immigrants or just residents. Now, how do we get the kids into good colleges? That's always been a big thing in Chinatown. Every family, immigrant family, worked on how to get their kids into good colleges. So job training to increase the skills of new immigrants, vocational training for kids who don't want to go to college, but need to be able to make a very nice living in the trades or whatever. And, technical training, computer training, college preparation training. Those are all things that are needs, but you have to have a facility that can expand and contract and develop these spaces. The challenge to the architects is if you have a senior center in there, you're actually going to have to build probably a kitchen. You're going to need refrigeration. You're going to need cooking facilities. You need cold storage. And throughout the place of any tenant, you're going to need more storage than you ever thought of. Space is not enough. Programs have stuff, whether they're books or furniture or everything. You need storage space too. So just general guidelines to the architects as they look at this thing, things that you need. Think in terms of what these stage managers have to do at the theater. How can you reconfigure that space in 20 years when the programming is going to be completely different? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see. Eric Poon, would you want to go next? I think you already spoke, right? Did you raise your hand again?
No, I had already spoken, but thank you.
Amy Chen?
Hi. I do want to thank DCAS and the city and the facilitators for this process. I think it's very rare that as a community we can have this kind of discussion and input. I really am concerned though, because I heard that there are members in the community that have not been abiding by the spirit of an open process and a community process. I have heard reliably that there have been members of the community that have been pre-filling out survey forms for the 3x3 survey and coaching people in the community on what and how to fill out. And I want to make sure that you have the safeguards in place and what those are to ensure that this is a fair process and that it's not corrupted by people in the community who are not abiding by the spirit of a community process.
Thanks for raising that up. As mentioned to you before, integrity of the process is integral to us, and we have multiple safeguards, including knowing where multiple responses might be coming from, different random checks that we would be integrating, and also ensuring that the digitization of any paper surveys happens through a neutral channel where no fudging happens. We would definitely ensure nothing like this goes.
And I,
Hey,
well,
Priyanka,
I'd
your
like,
volume is very low. I think I had trouble hearing that. Does anyone else feel that?
we didn't catch that.
Yes, can't hear her.
Can you hear me now?
Priyanka,
Still,
You cannot hear me?
No.
We can hear you, but you're very quiet. I think you need to move a bit closer to the microphone. Very loud.
Is this better?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, I'm gonna take my headphones off and see if that's better.
No, we can't hear you at all. Okay. Oh, this is better. Okay. All right. Just move the computer screen closer to me. And I'll try raise my volume up as well. I just want to address the comment that was made earlier, and just want to reconfirm that the integrity of the process is very integral to what we are doing, and we have various safeguards in place to make sure nothing like that happens. Survey management allows for check for multiple responses. It also allows to see multiple entries, where multiple entries might be coming from. And we would also be doing random checks, and we have ensured that the digitization of process is neutral and that nothing like that happens or goes through. So rest assured that that would not happen.
Well, I'm just saying that it is happening. And for anyone in the community who's doing that, shame on you.
Yeah, I'm just saying that nothing like that would go through if it did happen.
It did.
I can verify that. I've heard the same rumors. I've spoken to 2 community members. They, of course, will not go on record.
I have seen the pre-filled in forms.
We will definitely investigate that. And I have noted that down too. Yin from Think Chinatown, would you want to speak next?
Yeah, I'd like to continue this discussion about the unsatisfactory community engagement process. I think, Priyanka, your team has been doing a great job taking notes. But as we all know, we're all repeating ourselves because we're not getting new information from DCAS. So I want to make sure that our 90-day process time does not end before we have the chance to respond to new information. And we've repeatedly asked for assessment for structural and historic preservation. And also, if there's more information about neighborhood asset mapping, we need to have time and space to respond to new information. Otherwise, we are not moving forward in the process. Another question is, why is the workshop tomorrow? This is a 3-hour meeting, and to ask committee members to come again tomorrow to spend 2 hours. If you really want more input, spreading out the time would be very helpful for us to participate. Otherwise, I mean, this is just an exercise of ticking the box. I also kind of want to understand the dynamics of what's going on in the smaller advisory meetings. Are the smaller organization tenants who have less capacity to organize and do their own research getting the same level of attention and are being heard at the same level as the larger organizations? Because it seems like UEAA's needs have not been met. I also wanted to respond to Hong's comment earlier about a 20-story building with the ULURP being the only reason why the timeline would be longer. In fact, it's not only the ULURP, it would also be the time for demolition and building taller would take a lot longer, and all the assessments needed to see if the foundations could carry on such a tall building, and mitigations for neighboring businesses and such. And the timeline of construction is so much longer. It does not seem to be in line with the needs of the fellow tenants, which are clearly been stated that they need to get back in as soon as possible. So I just really want to hear back from DCAS or the 3x3 team. Are we going to get a chance to give more feedback after we get more information?
The meeting that we have today and tomorrow are the last community meetings. We will take the proposition of a meeting between DCAS and community member forward when the report is out. So that would be one avenue, could possibly be one avenue where the community can speak again. And they're responding to all the content that has been out. But besides that, it's the survey that's there, it's the document. You can upload the document to the survey, but there's not going to be any other additional meeting where more information is going to be disclosed. Yeah.
That's really disappointing to hear, because we've been asking for this information since even before 3x3 came on, when it was the DCAS, and we haven't received any of this information. So we haven't been able to provide any further feedback for you. But also, can you please tell me about my response to my question about the dynamics of the smaller advisory board hearing?
The small advisory meetings are, so the advisory meeting is supporting with the outreach process, and they are also the ones which we share findings with and share the agendas with, just for feedback. But other than that, there has been nothing else that has been going on in the advisory meetings. It's more of a support process, and in a way, an interpretation and validation process at some critical milestones as well.
So one of the main focus of Think Chinatown, our nonprofit, is fair community engagement processes. And I just have to say, hearing that we're not going to have more information and not be able to respond to that, I have to formally protest that and label this community engagement process as a sham. Great note taking though. I think 3x3 has done a great job of organizing our thoughts, but this is a comment for DCAS directly and our elected officials.
So when you say more information, what kind of information are you speaking to?
What we've been asking for from the beginning, assessment of the structural and historic preservation, and also the mapping of neighborhood assets.
Okay, point taken. Teresa Pan, would you like to go next?
I'm just listening to everybody's commentary, and I'm with Four Seas Players. I'm not in the building. We're just a community theater organization, and I agree with what Yin said because I'm listening to everybody's commentary, and it's like we're spinning our wheels because tomorrow we're going to have something else. I took 3 hours of my time. I put in a simple question: when did the 90 days start? Nobody can answer that. It's just great note taking at this point, and you only allow for 2 engagements with the community. That's definitely not enough. $80 million is just being spent. We don't even know if we have it, according to Carlin. That's for sure. So, and then when the new administration comes in, all of this will become moot. It'll have to start all over again because it will be 6 months out again. It doesn't make sense. We're just spinning our wheels. And this is coming from a small nonprofit, and my whole thing was, don't we want to engage the whole community with like 2 bridges downtown, do stuff like that where we're not just limiting just Chinatown, because Chinatown can spread. But just listening to everybody, it doesn't make sense with our time. We appreciate what 3x3 has been doing, but it's not conducive if the administration changes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The report would come out before the administration changes. To that, I would let DCAS later on respond to these concerns. As far as the community engagement process is concerned, it's not just these 2 community meetings. We had 4 community meetings before as well in October. We have a survey that's out. Community can also upload their documents. I understand some of the concerns that Yin had about there being existing information that the community has the occasion to respond to. And like I said, we will take the proposition of DCAS holding a community meeting with us present at the end when the report comes out, which might have additional information, and that could be one avenue for you to respond to it.
But again, no one answered, when did the 90 days start?
The 90 days started in September 15. It will end on December 14th. And
that's definitely not enough
that
time.
information is public. It's out on press releases. It's out like every meeting we have been showing a diagram which also has those which has laid out the whole process in the introduction as well. Kelly Tang, would you want to go next?
Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Kelly. I'm here on behalf of Chinese Community Center, the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association. Thank you so much for having this meeting, and also have a lot of guests to participate, and then we all share our input and then hear feedback from others. So the only concern that I think a lot of people already covered that what I want to say, and most people thought at the beginning. So there's only one concern that we have from our Chinese CCBA is since the 70 Mulberry Street project is in Chinatown, we would like to request we can have an Asian American architect, an Asian American consultant, and then Asian American like construction worker in the future to build together to build this project.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I upload some statement from our Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association and update suggestion about the construction sequences and the time frame to rebuild this 70 Mulberry Street project. So I will upload again to share with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass on to Isabella to take the facilitation from here.
Thank you, Priyanka. I have currently, again, raising your hands, Kelly Tang. Have you raised your hand again, or is it still up? Is it just still up? Okay. Sorry. Teresa Pang. Can I ask? Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're talking about Peg Breen?
Yes, it's changed name. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. I share everyone's concerns that there wasn't a preservation assessment, and it doesn't bode well for DCAS's outlook. And it seems we are here without the information that is necessary to really talk about rebuilding. CBJ Snyder created very strong buildings. I have no doubt that what is left can be reused, but it would have been much more helpful to all of us if we had that documented. You mentioned at the beginning that there was some movement and you had to add something after buttoning up the building, which I'm very grateful for. But I would like to know more about that. And is there some kind of report you could share with us about the exact condition of the building at this time? Once you make your recommendations to DCAS, I just want to be clear that, well, they will be public, but then it's up to DCAS. I sat in for a year in a NoHo Soho study group. And at first the city said they were not going to make any changes after all that. And then they came out with a proposal that bore no resemblance to anything the NoHo Soho study group discussed. I hope that isn't repeated here. I think people have made very eloquent statements about what 70 Mulberry Street means to the history, culture, and people of Chinatown. And there is no way that a modern building and a 20-story building can replace what Chinatown would lose if this building were taken down. So I really thank everybody who is speaking out for the preservation, who is so eloquent about what this building means to Chinatown. And I really hope that we can save what is there, build within it, build within the FAR, and have a building that continues to serve as the heart of Chinatown.
Thanks so much for these. We will also bring these forward again in terms of like the recommendations and how these will be shared, and also what are the exact conditions. We know that that building has been covered right now, but we are not in the possession of a detailed report at this point. So we will bring that forward, and if we receive a report, we will let you know. Yes. Victor, I see you're raising your Zoom hand and your real hand. Please take the floor.
Okay, like one of the issues that we had after the fire, you know, they said that the building was structurally damaged. We had a drone flight go over, and you know, the building has a steel substructure. They decided to tear down the top 3 floors, which the 4th and the 3rd floor was totally sound. They had bobcats up there. You don't ride a bobcat on top of a unsound structure. And then after they stopped demolition because of demonstrations from the community, they let the thing rot in the weather, basically uncovered, 3 months with rain and everything. You get black mold. On the good floors was ruined. And now they decide to put a roof on it. This is the problem. While we're talking, the city is doing. They're doing what they want to the building. What we need to do is have more transparency, find out what the city plans, why did they do what they did to take down 3 stories, why did it cost $6 million, why didn't they cap the space after they decided to stop construction and do a 90-day thing, and letting the building rot through the weather, so maybe they can condemn it and say, oh, this building has now got black mold, we have to take it down. What is going on, and why are we left in the dark and we watch this building deteriorate day by day?
Thank you, Victor. Susan, can I ask you? I think you're raising your hand again. Or is your hand still up?
Ah, I raised my hand again. Thank you, Isabella.
Oh, which one?
Oh, okay.
Which one?
Sorry,
Whoever wants to go first, and then we go. Susan, yeah, you both have, maybe Susan Chin, do you want to start, and then Susan Young?
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks, Isabella. I just wanted to say that, there's been a lot of question about the $80 million that's been allocated by the mayor. I think it would be helpful in the transparency of this process, to outline where in the capital budget that is it, and providing information on the budget line, and I'm assuming that it is in DCAS's capital budget. So thank you, DCAS, and to Deputy Commissioner. So we really think it would help in the transparency of this process. Thank you, Isabella.
Thank you, Susan. Susan.
Okay. I just put up about Clemente de Soto Velez website on the chat, which is a renovated building that caters to the local Lower East Side cultural centers, like having 3 theaters, artists in residence to provide further income, to support artists, and generate, studio space for artists. And yet Chinatown doesn't have any services like that as close. The only service that could provide it would be MoCA, but it doesn't, because it has to finance its own expenses. What I'd like to say about senior citizen, Margaret Chen, I interviewed her in 1994, and at that point, she wanted to discuss about having more SROs and senior citizens and so on. And it took about 30 years till she became city councilwoman again, city councilwoman, and then structure a senior center on Elizabeth Street in Little Italy. So, in her 8-year office, this is the level of providing senior citizen services. It's like, why is it taking it that long? In that respect, but in terms of of course, I'm pushing for the theater, for all its development. What's Victor Papa interrupting me for?
Sorry, I'm gonna mute him quickly.
Thank you. I don't think he knows what he's saying anyway. Excuse me, that's personal. Okay, but I don't know how much it is to push for such cultural arts center in a community.
Great.
In order to publicize, there are great artists in this community, and I could speak for myself. Never mind. Also, because like there's the Minerva Figure Drawing Center, which she had to move from Soho, and now she's at 91 Canal Street, where there are artists, and she's trying to keep her structure motivated and continue after this year's lease is over with and so on. But then, she's 82 years old. So like, I like to see it continue beyond her retirement. And that's a development for the arts.
Thank you, Chen. Thanks for that. Yin, have you raised your hand again?
Yes, I have.
Okay, great.
I just wanted to add some comments also as a private resident, not necessarily part of St. Chinatown. But I also wanted to agree with Susan. I'm so grateful she brought up the example of the Clemente Soto Cultural Center. That's such a great parallel. I also wanted to agree with her that there are definitely a lot of amazing artists in Chinatown, as we have all just seen at Chinatown Arts Week. It's really, we just need space to program. I wanted to talk about some renderings I've been seeing going around that has been shared on this chat along with Tsingtao Daily. I personally, as a resident, struggling to find information about this project, think that renderings at that level of detail is very irresponsible and dangerous at this time. It really can change people's understanding of what is happening. People who don't understand or are not following the project super closely are going to assume that that is the direction people are going. So I just want to plead with my fellow community members to be careful with putting that type of information out there. I know it might seem like it's a fun thing to put out these very detailed, realistic looking renderings, but at this stage where we are in the discussion, where we are really having some difficult conversations, I think it's irresponsible and dangerous to be putting out that type of rendering at this time. I also want to bring people's attention to what I think, maybe I'm a little biased, more responsible research and understanding of the project. And I am proud to direct people to Think Chinatown's website, where we have been collecting information. And albeit there is opinion, but we do separate out what is, we're very clear on what is opinion and fact. And we have not shown any renderings, but there are massings that go through the different, is it an overview of the different different building scenarios that we've discussed, and the time and the timeline it would take to accomplish that. This is all information we've been asking from DCAS from the beginning and have not been able to receive. So we've took it upon ourselves to reach out to very capable and experienced and knowledgeable architects and architectural historians to build on this research that we've presented on our website. I want to caution other people that some of these other renderings are put out by very young designers that may not understand the full consequence of what they're doing. I'll put the link in the chat now for everyone's reference.
Thank you, Yin. Yeah, that would be great. I currently, oh yeah, no, excuse me, I don't see the first name, but Ji Gong.
Yes, hi, my name is Gloria Gong.
Gloria.
And yes, and the original tenants that were in that building did make up a very multicultural community group, like the Senior Center, Manpower, United East, Mocha. And I just want to put in a plug to have a gym built in the building. That's it. So that's my plug. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any other hands raised right now.
Isabella?
Yes.
It's Ava Chen. Can I just say something?
Yeah, of course.
Because I can't raise my hand.
Okay.
I think that what's being voiced, what I'm hearing, is the voices of a lot of frustration about this process, which is not transparent. And we have not been hearing anything from DCAS about many of the issues that have been raised in the prior to workshop sessions and today. And I fear that this will just continue on tomorrow. And what I want to say, since it does feel a little bit like an echo chamber, what I want to say to folks, since we are on this Zoom call together, is not to lose heart, that the community is still together, and as long as we continue to voice our opinions and collectively talk to each other and engage with each other, engaging with folks from Think Chinatown and other people in the community. We know who each other are. We see each other in the street almost every day. That, you know, we are watching the city and we are speaking. And the city should not, we're part of the community of the city, right? We pay tax, I'm a civil servant, I work for CUNY, right? So, you know, this might be a tick off the box kind of situation, but while we are all here together, I want DCAS to understand that we see what's going on and we are together. And all of my people who feel the same way that I do, we will continue to speak out. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, I think you would like to address the floor.
Yeah, I just wrote this in the chat, but you know, I love Gloria and I remember Paul Gong very well. What a great guy. I just wanted to say that, you know, a gymnasium is great. A lot of people don't realize that inside CCBA, there's a full court gymnasium. And also there are gymnasiums in the schools, in the community. So, and I'm not shooting down the idea. I'm just saying that this is why a survey of the assets in the community is really important as part of this planning process, because a lot of us don't know what is in the community and available. And if we don't know these things, the same way we don't have a preservation assessment, everything that we're discussing is really just pie in the sky. So at some point we have to ground this in reality. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Amy. Victor.
Hi, just to make a point, in the 70s, you know, we used to play basketball in the CCBA building. I mean, there's no gyms in Chinatown at all. And that was one of the few places where we could play. What happened was that because, you know, it's run by a certain group, they didn't want the young people running up and down the stairs. So they banned us, basically kicked us out of the building. We demonstrated in front of CCBA because the money raised for CCBA, in the past, the city never gave Chinatown anything. CCBA building was funded by donations from the community. So it was a totally, solely community-funded organization that funded that building. Another group took over and all of a sudden we're out. They promised us, we demonstrated in the street called Free the Gym. And after many meetings with the board of directors, they said, okay, we're going to give you the gym back. Well, we still haven't got it back. And that's the problem. In the Chinatown political system, you know, certain cliques find ways to, make deals, seize control. And that's what happened to PS23. It got certain groups seized control of the building. The city gave the building to CCBA as the arbiter or whatever. But in the end, CCBA is mostly old people. I'm 70 years old, and I remember this. And it's the young people that will bring Chinatown back to life. If you don't provide a space for young people, whether it's a gym, training classes, it's going to die. I mean, if everybody's 90 years old, where's the young people? If you don't provide space for them. And exactly the point of CCBA is that there are no young people left. Seriously. And to bring Chinatown back from the pandemic, young people have been coming back, giving back to the community. Even though they moved away and became professionals, they still care about Chinatown as a cultural center. And that's what this building should be, a cultural beacon for all the people who left. It's the only place that tells our history, where we come from, what we struggled to be here. When I grew up in Chinatown, I couldn't walk across the street on Canal Street. I would get beaten to death with baseball bats. I don't know if you remember this, but I do. I grew up in the 1950s. And at the time, there was a war called the Korean War. And the Chinese in America were considered enemies of the state. We lived through that. We lived through many things. We lived through the 9/11 lockdown, where Chinatown was shut down for 6 months. We're living through a pandemic right now. The city is just running over Chinatown. Don't give a shit about us. And we will start calling them on account, because us OGs, we're listening, we're watching. We won't let this situation go down with being quiet anymore. I'm 70. And we need to educate the young how to seize power in city politics. The next mayor, next city councilwoman better have Chinatown's back, because we will not have their back if they don't support Chinatown.
Thank you, Victor. I don't see anyone raising their hand right now. Oh, no, here we go. Eric Chu.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. I think, yeah, I can hear you.
I just want to say that time is very important on this, and so are guarantees. I heard the elected officials say things like, more than tonight is necessary, from the Assemblywoman. And Gail Brewer saying, I have a good feeling. Well, we need people to back that up. Well, I want to hear the elected officials back their statements up. I heard Margaret Chen said, there's $80 million allocated. Show us the money. We know there's going to be administration change, so it's very important, particularly to overcome the distrust in this room, to show us what guarantees and how long will this take. So I think there's a lot of goodwill from the elected officials, but we need more than that. We really need to find out how they can make sure the money gets to fully fund this project, and that it's more than just a good feeling. They can back it up with a process that people believe in.
Thank you, Eric. We have no hand up, and I also don't see anyone putting the name into the chat.
Vic and Yin have their hands up.
Oh, yeah, okay. Victor, do you want to go first and maybe just continue your statement, and then Yin, and I see also now Carlene having her hand up.
Carlin, and he's a man.
Oh, Carlin, okay, apologies about that.
Macho man.
Yes, Victor, you have the floor. Do you want me to unmute you?
I think he maybe forgot to lower his hand afterwards. He spoke earlier.
Yeah. Yin, Colin, actually, you've not spoken for a while. Do you want to go first and then Yin?
Yeah, I have a suggestion. All this talk about $80 million being committed by de Blasio, and since there's so much community distrust on this, is there a way to put that money into an escrow account, into a 70 Mulberry rebuilding or restoration fund? This way the community knows the money is there. It's in an escrow account, and it's not in some city budget line somewhere.
The concern here is the reassurance that that money is there, right?
It's Gail Brewer. I'm going to write a letter, Carlin, with the signatures from elected officials to the mayor stating that we want a response. At least we'll have it in writing. So we're working on that right now. That's the #1 issue for me.
Gail, I will be happy to sign on to that letter.
Exactly. Well, and everybody, all the electeds will sign on, and the community board. Just FYI. I'll get you your money, Carlin. I promise.
Well, no, I'm concerned. I mean, even if the city puts the money into a budget somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, we're still in a pandemic, and when we start to recover from this pandemic, I mean, you know, money is always diverted. My concern is money being the 80 million or 100 million, you know, being diverted to another emergency somewhere. So if it goes into an escrow account or a 70 Mulberry Street rebuilding or restoration fund, it's still there in that fund.
That's what we'll ask for. We'll ask for that specifically.
And also just, I mean, I'm not in the city level, but I just wanted to say that, you know, because it's not operating funds, it can't be as easily diverted. It's a capital dollars, I think. So like those, once they are allocated, as you know, in the city, it's allocated out. So I mean, I think that city folks can probably better address that, but that's just how certain budgets on the state side work, for example, so.
Yeah, I'm just speaking from experience with allocated funds, because, you know, if anybody walked by Columbus Park, you'll notice that we have chicken wire as perimeter fencing. You know, that money was allocated 15 years ago, and, you know, they bought the fencing that was used somewhere else. So right now, we still have no perimeter fencing on this park. So you know, the same thing happens with city funding all the time. It gets diverted. And once it gets diverted, it never finds its way back to its original mission.
I agree. And that's why, you know, I think that it's really important that the city keep its promises to us. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yin.
Yeah, I had a quick question, a point that I brought up earlier that wasn't addressed, which was about why the workshop is tomorrow, why this truncated timeline, why put us through 2 long meetings in a row.
So go ahead, Isabella, if you want to go. The workshop at the town hall are really 2 very different formats, as were the community engagement meetings, which we had 4 days in a row 3 weeks ago. Multiple meetings happening also on the same day in multiple languages over the course of 4 days. Also, the town hall and the workshop are 2 different formats of meetings. Tomorrow is much more generative in response to particular scenarios. Through the town hall, we really wanted to open up the floor to everyone and giving everyone a chance to say or add anything to the conversation that still needs to be added, rather than having the conversation in like a more facilitated manner as we had during the first round. So that's also something we responded to as a feedback to the first round of meetings, for it to be more accessible, to have no registration, to have a longer format. It also goes until 9 o'clock instead of finishing at 8 o'clock, which would allow some people who might be working late to participate. So maybe that's some response why they happened on 2 days.
Sure, but why is it back to back? Because a lot of us who are interested in participating in the workshop are here tonight. And it's, you know, if you wanted to capture more feedback and also time for us to, like, you know, learn more, I'm just curious, like the timing doesn't seem to be conducive to this.
Part of it, which you probably can relate to, is like pure project logistics in order to also for us to compile the report within our time frame and to have a proper time for turnaround, since the timeline, as all of you noted, is pretty tight with 90 days. So it's also a lot of meetings, it's a lot of information for us to go through and to put into recommendations. So that's one aspect of it. The other is also we ran the dates by the elected officials, by the advisory committee, whether there's any colliding other events, like we had one event colliding during the first week, which we wanted to avoid, and we landed on those 2 days, on Monday and Tuesday of this week.
And so if I'm understanding correctly, because these are the last two public events, but the 90 days doesn't end till mid-December sometime, that part of the 90 days is actually the work that 3x3 does to compile. And so it's not actually the time that is used to actually speak with and get more feedback from the community.
Yeah, there's a 90-day visioning process, that's right. It started with us setting up the project. So getting the process into place, organizing the different meetings, so aligning on these different goals, and it will finish once we hand over the report. Yeah, those are the 90 days deadline that we are also operating under.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because your team is also put under a lot of duress and not set up for success for this outreach process, this 90-day process. So again, please add that to my official protesting of ineffective community engagement. 90 days should be entirely for 90 days of input where the community continuously learns about the project and has more things to give feedback about. It shouldn't be 90 days just for the poor consultants to be worked to the bone to put this output out.
Yeah, thank you for echoing that as well. And it's a very, very short timeline. Absolutely right. And it's a challenge also to turn around the information. I think there's also other pressures, maybe in terms of just, I guess, having this process and moving ahead as quickly as possible. Like with the rebuilding process, as this process was seen as a requirement, but I also wanted to emphasize really two things also from our ends. Like, it's definitely not a ticking the box exercise for us. We take community engagement quite seriously. We do not always have the timeframes that we hope we would have, or also in the current conditions are a little bit different than we usually operate under in terms of like in-person versus online. But I also want to say again that we are collecting all the concerns and we're putting all the concerns forward. And this is also true for the demand that we've been hearing in terms of like transparency, and as well as like the hope to interact like with the actual report recommendations moving forward for the community to interact with that. So that's something we're also putting forward to DCAS.
So I do have a final question, which is, since this is, tomorrow's the last session, we've been putting out so many questions to DCAS. And so if we don't get a response, right, what can we do as citizens what are our venues, right, to get a response since we haven't been hearing back this entire time?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think from our ends is like we can promise that everything will be put forward for DCAS to respond to. I think that's what is within our possibilities. Like, I don't know what else I could promise that is within our kind of like scope also in this project. But I guess there's probably other means of like organizing. And this group
Take to the streets, is that what you're saying?
No, DCAS has created, we asked DCAS to create a website on this project, which would have links to all the documents that you provided us. It would also have the report, it would have the recordings, and part of our recommendation is for DCAS to be able to use that website and other platforms as a way to keep the engagement ongoing. This is a community visioning process to develop a shared vision. I don't think it is the last community engagement project which would happen in relation to this rebuilding process. Like there are going to be design considerations. It is going to go more into technicality, and like part of our recommendations would be to keep the engagement ongoing. It's not the end. And I understand their concerns from people who attended the first rounds of meetings, because it might feel that today is a repeat, but it is. Like, it is in response to what you had raised as a concern, that we want to hear all the stakeholders in one room, and we want a meeting that is not capped. We want a town hall. And by the very nature of the town hall, it's going to be a listening session, you know? It's not going to build upon. So I do want the participants to take into consideration that this is the format of the meeting, and that the objective is here to find common grounds, develop a shared vision, and not lose heart, because this is not last of the engagement process. Even if we would be out, someone else would be in, to keep this engagement process ongoing.
Can I speak
Hi,
for a
this is
second?
Irving Lee. This is Irving Lee. I'm on the phone. Can I say something about what's been going on with the discussion?
Irvin?
Yeah, Irving Lee.
Irving Lee, yeah. Lee,
Okay, so I was at the last session, and there were a number of requests in order to have an informed and democratic discussion of the assessment of what could be done with the buildings and the different proposals that are in place. And my concern is the fact that none of these proposals have been enacted. And why hasn't DCAS been not carried out or executed any of the motions that are in play? Because we can't have an informed discussion unless we get all the information. And who makes the final decision? Just as a point of information, how is that decision going to be made in terms of what's going to be decided upon?
can you unpack a little bit in terms of the proposition? Are you referring to the propositions that were shared during the first round of meetings?
Well, the proposals was to have an assessment of getting a professional analysis on the question of preservation, having access to the property to do an assessment, and having all perspectives provide information of why they support a particular idea, like an expansion of a 20-story tower in Chinatown. None of these proposals have ever been provided in terms of concrete information why it needs to be done. We haven't gotten any concrete information and analysis of what can be done and what are the possibilities and what the pros and cons are. We haven't gotten that information. And why hasn't DCAS done that? Why hasn't DCAS allowed access to the property so an analysis can be done?
I think as iterated or mentioned before, access to someone from outside is not possible. DCAS is taking into consideration hiring a consultant if preservation assessment is the demand of the community, and if that comes out in the report. They just wanted to wait for the community visioning process to happen before they go ahead with the preservation assessment.
Okay, so preservation assessment will eventually take place, but once we get that information, is there going to be more discussion based on the new information?
We would recommend an ongoing engagement process, and we've been hearing that from you as well, but it's up to...
It should have been done by now, to be frank. an assessment should have been done. Why hasn't it been done? Just because they're waiting for the discussion to be completed, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, we can't have a true discussion until an assessment is taken place and provided for us.
Can I make a statement to the elected officials? I want to ask the question is, why is DCAS administering this contract and not DDC, who is perfectly capable of dealing with a project of this nature?
Good question.
I'm still on, but I'm not on the city level. So I just wanted to know that. Yeah, Gail. Oh, Gail.
I'm here. I'm just listening because the phone keeps ringing, so I don't want to bother anyone. The answer, as far as I know, is normally DDC, which is the design commission, usually picks up on a project after the initial agency has determined to go forward. So that's my impression. For instance, if you are the libraries or certainly the park, East River Park, et cetera, starts out with the Parks Department and then it turns it over to actually do the building. That's the answer to your question. Also, the only thing about DDC is they charge a fortune for administrative in addition to the construction. I just throw that out.
And a landlord.
Yeah, they're the builder.
Yeah.
And they're the builder. I don't know who will end up being the landlord in this. I know Carlin wants it to belong to the community, but there isn't. So far, it's just DCAS. But DDC usually builds it. They're not the landlord. They're the builder.
For doctor discussion guide to prep for your next appointment in person.
So I don't know if that helps to answer your question, but that's how it usually works.
I understand how it works, and DDC normally has like architects and engineers already under contract, so I don't know if DCAS has the same ability to get the procurement of these professionals in a quick manner. That's my question.
Yes,
DCAS can turn it over. DCAS can turn it over to DDC. I think that would be a good question to ask them. Are they planning to do that? It's a very good question. Often the answer is yes, from my experience.
The DCAS, in my experience, and I worked in architecture firms for many years, working with both DCAS and DDC, is that DCAS can bring in architects and engineers as quickly as DDC can.
Let me jump in here a second. Gail, let me correct that. It's not my wish to have the community administer to the building. I would love to see DCAS administer to this building when it's been restored or rebuilt in perpetuity. And any community organization or industry administering to this building would just open another can of worms. And I think that's what everybody's fighting over right now. Okay, so I have a quick question for you, Priyanka. I'm to understand, it's been several months now, but the timeline for this whole process, all right, 3x3 is the facilitator. After that, after you present your findings back to DCAS, and DCAS will hold another a series of public hearings or forums, and then they would hire a consulting firm, and then eventually an architectural firm. So we're talking almost 2 years here. Is that true? Thank you.
Oh, no, I will not speak to the process outside of this 90-day community visioning. I am not aware of that process. What I am noting down is considerations that you would want us to recommend for that process. It's been noted by the community that time is of essence. That's the biggest priority. So that's going to be addressed in the report. When to my earlier comment, what I meant was that any process that goes on should have a level of engagement. That means the building process and other processes. That's more a recommendation. So I'm not speaking to what DCAS process would be after the.
Okay, because the DDC was brought into this in the earlier conversation, and I've been kind of a veteran of some of these DDC processes that have taken years. So we're really extending this conversation on whether to move forward, restoration or rebuilding. Right? They're going to hold a series of hearings. They'll come back with with an updated design, and then the community has a right to give more input. I mean, that process is really drawn out. I mean, my membership is running out on this senior center here. I don't think I'm going to have to renew this thing. I'm not going to see the benefits of it.
Point noted. There are obviously trade-offs, but I think the sweet spot is being able to find a process that is inclusive and transparent and takes input from the community in a timely manner, but also like I think it's also the scenarios that would be recommended that also contribute towards the length of the process. So I would say like it's not the trade-offs to all the things that you're raising, right? Like all the participants are raising different sides of the equation. And it's like, where is there a point where it addresses most of the concerns? It also can't be that we recommend that there shouldn't be an ongoing process just because the building needs to be built ASAP, right? That wouldn't work either. So it's where the balance is, and what would that be for the community?
Hey guys, just it's me, Eric, again from United East. I see that we're coming up on time, so I just wanted to take this last opportunity to thank everyone for your time at this, on this Monday night for pitching in here and for looking out for us, not just United East, but really all of the tenants at 70 Mulberry. And from the point of view of United East, we really hope that the city can help us to find temporary room, temporary home that will allow us to continue our after hours programming for our youth and our working adults. So I'd like to put that down as well.
Thanks. Amy Sue, do you want to speak?
Oh, that was me.
Oh, that was you. Sorry for that. Ling Zia, do you want to speak?
Priyanka, are you calling me?
You have your hand raised.
Oh, yeah. Hi. I guess we're near the end of the discussion. My name is Ling Xiayi. I'm the community liaison for Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez, who's not able to be here tonight. And on her behalf, I want to thank everyone here tonight for making this town hall happen and for sharing your opinions and for caring about 70 Mulberry. This building is an important hub of Chinatown. It's a community gem. Like many speakers said here tonight, they went to the building, they went to school here, and their family member used the senior center, or their parents also went to the school. This building is a living history of the community. It's a multi-generational memory shared by many families of this community. And then we shall ensure that 70 Mulberry does not just become a piece of history. It shall continue to serve the community with vital functions for years to come after the rebuild. It is crucial that all community stakeholders have their voices heard and the community members find a common ground on preserving the building's heritage while embracing the future. On behalf of Congresswoman Velasquez, I thank everyone here tonight participating and ask you to spread the message to those people who are not able to be here tonight or tomorrow about the survey. Let's make sure that every voice is counted. Whether the voices that usually otherwise are not so vocal, let's make sure all vulnerable voices, all the community member voices get counted and make this building better. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, yeah. We have one more hand up, I think, Victor. Maybe not. Are we missing anyone else? Yeah.
Isabella, this is Teresa. So tomorrow's meeting is it like the first meeting that we had last time, where it's broken out into groups for tomorrow's workshop? Is it same format? Okay.
Yes, we will be working in smaller groups, yeah. And working through particular prompts that came out of the first round of community sessions.
Okay.
Thanks for that question. Anyone else? I want to make sure I'm not missing someone who might still have their hand up. Okay. I think maybe with that, because we're almost out of time, and I know it's late, it's getting late for everyone. I want to close the meeting.
I'm sorry, Isabella. I just want to confirm the link for tomorrow's workshop is going to be sent out when?
Tomorrow morning.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Hong.
I also have a question, actually. If we've missed the deadline to register for the workshop, is there a way that we could register now for that workshop?
We've left the registration open in the survey because we plan to send sheets through which community members can contribute past the deadline. But we would, even at the number of people who registered for the workshop is already quite high, and we know there would be drop-offs, but we will send out an email to people who registered past the deadline after we see what the confirmations are like.
Okay, I mean, I just think that if this is one of the last community appearances that we are able to make, it's very important that you kind of include everyone who is asking for a voice in it.
Point taken. We will try our best.
So what can I do on my side to make sure that I can participate in this workshop tomorrow?
You should still go to the survey and register for it. You're still able to register for it.
Okay, and then if I register for it, then I will be able to gain access to the workshop tomorrow?
Like I said, like we'll be taking our total count of the people who registered before, and if we can, we would definitely let you in. But if not, we would send an activity sheet, which would basically be the same exercise that we would do in the community meeting. So you can contribute through that as well.
And then that will be recorded and on record?
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. Any other questions? Yeah, so I think probably have to come to a close, but I do want to remind everyone of the possibility of like also taking the survey if you haven't done so yet, or spreading the word about the survey. That's still open. It's open until the 15th of November. So it's open for another week, I think, until Sunday. So that's another opportunity for you also to participate, get the voices in, or like share it with anyone else that you would like to share it with. Apart from that, again, we want to thank everyone, and I want to assure you one more time that everything is being recorded and that we are feeding all your feedback into the recommendations for feedback to DCAS, and that these will be put forward. But other than that, really thank you for everyone's time, everyone who stayed on for like 3 hours. We know it's a long time to be part of such a meeting, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.